Hi, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of our podcast. So we have Dr. Rena Alasgarova. Hi, thank you for being here with us today.
Hello, Andy. Hello. Yep, my name is Rena. I come from Azerbaijan, from Baku, and I am a researcher. I'm a teacher. I'm a nerd. I do a lot of reading. Like my entire life is academia, is teaching, researching, and writing.
Thank you for coming to the podcast, especially because you are another example of cases of success when it comes to AI integration from early days. So, can you briefly introduce what is it that you are currently working on, your role, and the school or institution that you are working or collaborating with?
Yep, my story with AI started roughly about 5 years ago. I was never like too much into ed tech, I would say. With ed tech, it started earlier with the pandemic, but then when I saw that my students are using something I'm not that very comfortable with, I started investigating that. What I'm doing in my school, I boss am a deputy principal at one of the international schools in Baku, where I'm like navigating the way the syllabus like framework going to change with AI, but like not only. So we're currently drafting our first AI policy, speaking a lot about cybersecurity, ethics, academic integrity, and that like both for students and teachers. And now thinking about how we're going to involve parents into the discussion. And I'm also working at one of the universities here where I developed and started my course on AI, like ethical and responsible use of AI for master degree students. Yeah, and we've been working a lot on training teachers, raising awareness about AI and tools, currently moving on to AI in businesses, but it's a different story.
Well, but actually, a very interesting one because one of the things that I admire of your dedication in relation to AI is the focus that you have given it from the beginning. It was very clear that you were doing it on an ethical path more specifically, and this is one of the cores of today's episode. So what challenges or goals led you to explore AI with the ethical goggles on?
Like I need to probably set the context first. We're speaking about the situation in Azerbaijan now, where we have no governance as related to AI. We do not follow AI, European Union AI Act or UNESCO Act. So far, there is like literally nothing on the government level. Keep that in mind. And on the plus side, I look at all this like not at risk and challenges, but as an opportunities. Like as we have nothing, there is a lot to build on, and I love that. There's like a lot of things that can happen and will happen. As we now have AI strategy here in Azerbaijan, it's like it's planned up to 2028. Like a lot of things will be happening. But going back to the ethical and responsible use of AI, as I said before, I've started researching about AI when I saw my students using that. And like this is probably when ethics came onto the stage, because like this is the first thing I was thinking. I was back then I was the exam officer in our school. In my school back then we're doing GCSEs and A-level examinations. So I was thinking about if they use AI and get noticed and nothing is happening, because like plagiarism and AI was like pretty different stories back then. I was thinking, okay, like if they do use AI for their homework, if they practice a lot and they go and notice, what is going to happen when they actually sit pen and paper exam in exam conditions? Nothing. Like generally nothing will happen. They will either fail or nothing. Is like they will fail because they won't have any practice. Like they might have some skills which they develop during the classes. But again, if they and when they use devices in the classrooms as well, you never know if they cheat or not. Digital divide is getting narrow, I would say. But back then, like students would be better able to understand the systems, I would say. And like this is what I was thinking about. Like, do they really understand what they're doing? And do they really understand what long-term consequences are?
That is actually quite interesting because for me, it goes to many other different layers. Because yes, we might have this very specific student or group of students in mind, but what about the others? Since we want to keep the human in the loop and we want to keep it human centered, we have to make this type of learning responsible and ethical. But it's not going to necessarily be AI's, more specifically Gen AI's faults, and I am air quoting here, if that doesn't go under that path necessarily, because we have to take a step back and remember that the one that is making all those choices and pressing the buttons and prompting is the human at the end of the day. So, what challenges or opportunities you have found in your institutions when it comes to responsibility and human purpose influence when it comes to thinking about AI in education?
Keeping human in the loop. This might, like again, in Azerbaijan might differ from university to universities. Like some universities will still use Turnitin, some schools won't. Lack of awareness what AI detection tools are, if we speak about them now. Like some people would think that AI detection tools are useful and they would want to introduce that into to schools, which I'm quite opposed to. I know that AI is unexplainable, black box, opaque systems. Very many people, like and educators, they still don't understand that, and they want to bring that into institutions, while the practice show that is like very many schools and universities like all around the globe is like are now trying to take that out from the university and then bring that in. When we speak about keeping human in the loop, I would say that in my university, like teachers should be the last one who will make decisions whether the work was produced by ChatGPT or any other tool or by a student. But again, like in my school specifically, this is not happening. It's because we do not even have policies. So we're not using any AI detectors. That's one thing. The other story is with generating lesson plans and activities. And if that is also not under, like we speak a lot about how students misuse AI. We do not speak about how teachers misuse AI. Like this is not very popular a topic to touch upon, because whenever you speak to a teacher, the teacher will say like, I in my country they would say like, oh, I never use AI to generate lesson plans, because they feel you're trying to blame them that they're not doing their work well or enough. And I was like, no, it is okay. It's like if you use AI to generate something, this is fine. But the problem is sometimes teachers over rely, as students do, they over rely on AI tools. And sometimes they would go with whatever AI produces without checking that.
Mm.
And as we all know, like you should check whatever AI generates, is because again, the systems are opaque.
Now, but here's where I am still trying to understand. In this particular case, when deciding how to integrate AI, what principles or frameworks guided your approach in pedagogical terms, ethical terms? What is it that governance related approach that you're giving in your institutions?
Okay, so what we're doing now is like we started, as I said, like we started drafting AI policy in my school. So what we are doing, like we're doing first is like we would first get together with a group of people from all different departments, and I mean the subject groups, right? And it was primary and secondary and high school, to sit together to see what we are doing and like to draft the policy that will more or less fit the entire school. Is because this policy should be closely connected to academic integrity and behavior as well, like honor code, code of conduct, or like whatever you call it. It is because like, it will speak about homework, it will speak about plagiarism, it will speak about cheating. It's like it's all connected, and you cannot do one like AI policy as a standalone thing. Like that shouldn't be happening. And like this, like for me, I cannot even envision AI policy being not related to academic integrity or homework policy. Live it without any parent supervision. Again, very, very age specific, should be updated like maybe once, twice a year. But again, like for drafting, we had a group of people who were always working together on first brainstorming the ideas. And because like we had a huge list of what we're thinking should be in the policy, and then we realized that the list will go forever. We shortened that down and asked one person to draft it because yeah, like collaborative writing is not an activity here, of course, like as you do it in the class. So it's like one person drafted it. We then sat together, revised it. Now we're on the stage. We're trying to like finalize it and introduce that to the staff.
So in this particular case, the first takeaway that I'm getting from this is that because the outside didn't provided the solution, let's say, in terms of, okay, we are in the AI era and we have been in it for a while now, even if it's early days, what is it that we do? How is it that I control this? But not in the terms of policing, in the terms of doing things right, the right way, so we can walk with the students and not against them, right? So what I get is that you decided to create your own internal policies and determine with the school's criteria what was right. Yes, and
Yeah,
it was designed by you.
was designed by a group of people. We're thinking together. Yes, absolutely, as you said. But with another thing we're thinking about is like cybersecurity, because when we after some lesson observations that were happening last year, we would notice that some teachers would use AI tools. Some will use AI because it's like, like it's I wouldn't say popular, but it's like on hype, like, and you want to try it on, or you want to make it like engaging or interesting for the students. But like the thing they're not thinking about first is cybersecurity and data protection, and the second is how much time they actually waste. If you have one good tool to generate a quiz or for gamification or anything, why would you waste your time looking for something which you already have?
That's right.
All right, like, and then teaching your students how to use it, thinking about or not thinking about how students store their data there, whether they have to log in to put down their emails, like, and everything. So it's like within a new tool, you introduce that into the classroom and you spend at least like 5 to 10 minutes explaining students how to use a new tool. And like you waste your time, like your valuable time in the class, you waste your time at home when you try to find something new. And then if you've finally found something that you think you like, and then you try, like you waste more time trying to figure out how you can use the tool, how to create it with that.
What you have mentioned is what probably has happened or is happening in some institutions where they go with the AI projects as the tools appear, or, for example, as the time goes by without really addressing foundational issues. So, how is it that you and your institution have figured to address issues such as staff readiness, data privacy, equity, and ethical literacy for that matter?
Oh, okay. Like being broadly honest, we haven't achieved everything. Like where we is like, I don't know. As we've started drafting the policy in late June last year, and then it was summer break, and then when we came back, drafting, redrafting, and brainstorming, we were thinking about whether it would be, I would say, effective enough to have very specific AI training before the policy is introduced. And then we're thinking, okay, like what if we start telling something to teachers and then they do not have this policy in hand? They would say like, okay, how do I apply that? And you start teaching them and the policy is not ready. And we, let's say in September or October, like earlier this academic year, it's like the policy was not ready yet. And we were thinking about what we can introduce to teachers, and then like, what if policy doesn't reflect that? Why you would tell something to the teachers that won't be in the policy? So we decided to put something aside. So what we did first, we had Gemini workshops, but it's because we use Google Classroom in my school, like the effective and plausible thing to do, because AI, Gemini is already in the Google Classroom, so they should know how to use that. The second thing we did was to create the list of tools that we, like, together with my colleague. So we would select one tool that would generate videos, one tool that would generate PowerPoint presentation, and like So the list continues. Then we shared that with the teachers together with the video tutorial saying like, okay, this is what you can use and this is for this is for that. Made it pretty much explicit. And then asked teachers to comment or to add any other tools to the list. But what we wanted from teachers is that they give us subject specific tools, which we might not be aware of. And so what we're doing now is like teachers are sharing tools with us. We're checking them as like cybersecurity wise, data protection wise, and then add them to the list. This is how the list is growing. And like more or less, we can make sure that teachers are using safe tools and they do not waste their time on looking for rules. Like they can, okay, like I need to generate a lesson plan. Like here is a good one. Or like I need to generate a video. Here is a good tool. So what we're doing now, we started some cybersecurity teacher training with parents. And we are, but like again, very age specific. So what we tell parents in primary is very different from we tell parents in middle school and in high school, like three different things.
Talking about that specifically, what does good look like when we're talking about a tool in your selection? Because bear in mind that this podcast is going to be listened from people around the world in many different contexts where their AI usage is going to be very different from one country to another.
Okay, first we look at, as I said, like data protection, cyber security, where the students need to put their data and how they do that, whether the tool is easy to use, and whether it provides, I would say, quality output.
Now, I am really interested to know in a much more specific case scenario, can you give us a little bit of an anecdote or a specific project, concrete steps that you guys have followed as an example?
Okay, let me speak about the training session we are going to have. We're currently planning. We're going to have that in about a week. And again, it's like this is what we decided to do before we introduce AI policy. The first thing is to demonstrate how they can integrate these tools from the list in their teaching practice. What we're going to do, demonstrate how to use some of the tools to all secondary school teachers to create something very subject related and to see how that tool can be useful in their context, grade level, subject level folders, where they're going to upload their either PowerPoint presentations or lesson plan, depending on, we won't limit them. So the tool is out there, the creativity is your come first, tools come second. So here you go with your creativity, here you go with wherever it is in your head, your students, your subject. Here is a tool for you to help. And they're going to create something for us to upload that to Google folders for everyone to see, to learn from each other. And then they're going to to demonstrate what they have created and with some follow-ups and question and answers from us. And then we're going to introduce the policy to see how what they created now fit the policy.
So I think that this is not only important that you're giving them freedom in their creation, that you are allowing them to work and express their expertise on the matter. And then, of course, just implement it and blend it with the policy. So I think that this is brilliant. Now, that is something that is about to happen, I think that in a couple of months, because I know that you have walked a long road with your staff and your institution too. What is something that went better than expected and proved that it was the right way to follow, that maybe you didn't have any high hopes at the very beginning?
Yeah, it was speak about the university. I was thinking about the course that I'm doing now with master degree students. When I first drafted that, so ethical and responsible use of AI in education, and it is very narrow for one semester course with the exam in the end. Very many people were suspicious how that will work, and I heard lots of negative feedback. It was it's like this is too narrow. It sounds more like a course, like a training or a workshop rather than a university course at a postgraduate level. I had to adjust it when I was teaching it, and I went a lot into philosophy of AI. This is exactly like when I realized it later, exactly what students needed to understand the philosophy behind it. It's not just ethics and responsibility. And like, when you start speaking about like people like Heidegger, let's say, or Immanuel Kant, they were like, oh, how like yeah, they start to understand how that works, how like AI is like 75 years old, and you would see the surprise and then the interest in the students' eyes. And this is when they started understanding why and how that works. And this bridged this gap from any use of AI to ethical and responsible use of AI. You start speaking about how it all started, and then you go with the Turing test, and you speak about ELISA effect, and you take this timeline through years, and you speak about industrial revolutions and how, and then the ludits, and then you speak about neo-ludit, and you can see how this shaped students' understanding of what AI is. And I would say the course was really very successful.
And
And
it's
what is interesting, you can apply this as like this part, like philosophy, to any other like ethical use of AI courses, like whether that is like business, law, or any other.
yes, of course, because in the end, what philosophy does in many cases is to teach you and help you how to think better, to ask the
Yeah.
better questions. It makes absolute sense that you integrated that into the course. One of the things that I love about being an educator, and perhaps you'd love it too, is when you see that spark just happening in that very moment, like, oh, yes, this person is getting it. It's just that there is a lot of skepticism, and because we don't understand it in essence, we don't understand the core of it and how, more importantly, is going to affect us. So definitely when we throw the ethical aspects and the philosophical aspects in the mix, it makes more sense, because then we are like, oh, it is really about us, and this is the way that is going to affect us. Speaking about skepticism, how is it that you manage those typical part of the staff stakeholders like the parents and the board and maybe some of the students' body that they were a little bit reluctant related to AI? How did you manage that?
Oh, I speak a lot. I always do. But like this is the thing, is like in the meetings you try to explain that through lots of fallacies, logical fallacies around AI, people would say like everyone with AI, everyone is an expert now, right? Everyone think they know better, and you try and to speak, you try to convince people. It's not like, this is the presentation and like this is how you're going to use AI, like this is how you're not going to use AI, because like literally everyone think they know better. I get that, I understand that. You spend with people explaining them, yep, through some demonstrations, through workshops, through article, bringing wherever on the table, trying to sometimes push it a bit harder. But it's the only way. It's like you try to explain, bring maybe to show the best practices from elsewhere. It's like this is how they do that in Europe. This is how they do that in States. Here is what they have in their policies. Here are the UNESCO competencies for teachers and students. So like you may have a look at them, and this is how it goes with examples.
Since adopting AI, what has shifted in terms of mindsets, in terms of teaching, learning, or even decision making?
Was teaching and learning, as I said, like in Azerbaijan, we've just started really. So it was speak about what to really change. I do not think that there were huge differences from what we had to what we have now, because I think that it's still on the implementation stage. We have like academic integrity suffers a lot. And now when we speak about decision making, this is a tough thing. It's because this is something I'm doing with my colleague now. How AI affected teacher agency and authority in the classrooms. And again, it's like it's very, very culturally specific. And I honestly believe another big thing that I'm doing is cultural identity and AI and how we perceive AI through the cultural lens. But it's like a very, very different story. Um, but if we speak about post-Soviet countries, teacher has always been an authority. And this is shifting away when AI is in the classroom. And we see it now. I'm sure that this is happening anywhere else, but like we We see that in Azerbaijan specifically. So whenever you ask us, like we've done huge research on that, the paper was published already. So it's like whenever you ask a student whether you, let's say, do your teacher says one thing, like AI says a different thing, who would you trust more? They would say like, oh, I would trust teacher, but will come up and says like, like AI says it the other way around. Why? You explain it to me. So they won't tell, some of them, they won't tell that they trust AI more than they trust their teachers, but they start questioning their teachers already. The younger the students are, the more it happens. And because they're like a certain loss of metacognitive skills, because AI gives quick output, like give quick answers and results, they lose this moment to like learning how to learn. And there was another thing, and they would tell me, oh, like in interviews, like teacher would explain it for so long. It's like I ask AI and like gives me a short answer. What they don't understand is like when teachers like spending one entire lessons, like 40 minutes, 45 minutes to explain one little thing, they remember it better. When AI gives one short thing, they can read in like 2 minutes. They won't remember it for that long. This is what they do not understand, and that's why they rely on AI more. Like that is like way easier, and this is what is happening.
I am not saying, quite the contrary, that, like, ditch the teacher, keep the AI. I am far from saying that. It's just that we as educators need to take a very different path, which is, okay, this is what is happening now. So I need you to understand how to think with an entity that is going to mirror your thoughts in many ways. Studying has to become a lot harder, basically because we need to explain our students that the process of learning now is a lot different from what we got.
Focus on the process and probably create the process and evaluate the process rather than the product, is because the product is out there with AI. What I sometimes do with my students, one practical activity was we did science fiction in my class. So I asked some of the students to interview ChatGPT as if it is Ray Bradbury. The other one was like Isaac Asimov, and I think that was George Orwell with like 1984. So what I asked them to do is like to have an interview as if it is like a talk show, but I told them that what I'm going to grade, not the answers, but the quality of the questions that you ask based on the answers. So I wanted to see if they can still use AI but maintain, this is the dialogue or the interview. This is when critical thinking skill come back to the loop.
Now, looking back, what's one strategic decision that you would have done differently?
I wouldn't say differently. I would say earlier, probably, maybe teaching students how to use AI, maybe with the guidelines for the students that would probably have to come much earlier. I wouldn't say that I would change my approach to like the policy writing we're doing now. It's because we have buy-ins now from all the departments. We're going to continue working with students, and I love that. I love the process. But again, it's like maybe there was something that we should have done with the students much earlier. It's because students, they do not understand the risks. You know why I'm saying that? It's that we are still like here in Azerbaijan, we're still at that stage where not everyone understands what AI is. And when you ask students, are you happy with being undetected by your teachers? And they will all say yes. But like, do you think that by the time you graduate your university, you will still be able to find a job for yourself? And they were like, maybe not. And it's like, why? It's because you're going to lose the job to your job to AI. Yep. And they say like, yeah, well, like who is going to teach you how to use AI?
All right, so before we go, what is something about AI in education that you think it's not being asked enough?
Maybe the thing whether all policies are age specific. This is one thing, because I truly think this is really important, because how students perceive AI differs from age group to age group, and whether these policies focus on the futures. You know what, again, if students are prepared to what we're going to have like in 5 in 10 years, we never would, and do understand that we never know what is going to happen like with AI tomorrow or like even 2 years, but if students can at least select their path with AI in mind now, because like all these policies and all these talks about ethics, like and AI integration, we always speak about how to integrate some tools into AI system. But like I think thinking about what students are going to do with that when they finish schools, when they graduate universities, is overlooked, really overlooked.
I agree. We're thinking about the tools instead of thinking about rebuilding a new system. I got it. All right. Well, thank you very much, Dr. Alasgarova. We really appreciate you coming to this very special episode that it's mostly more related towards ethical use and your specific case in your institution. So thank you. We hope to see you soon in the show.
Thank you.
Have a good one. Bye.